So, welcome to the workshop. Today in this workshop, we're going to be going over basically if you don't have handstand, trying to get to handstand, or if you have handstand but you're at a certain point in the cliff notes, or you're at a certain point but you can't do a perfect handstand, where you can pick up from there and really get your handstands to the next level. And then after that, we're going to be doing air babies. Also, with that being said, let me get rid of this. I think it's this one. All right, so now we have more room. Perfect. So let me move this away. Now we have room to do handstands. So I'm gonna teach, if you're looking at the Google Doc right now, I'm gonna be teaching handstand from, if you don't have anything, all the way up to handstand, and the different forms that come with it. So let's get started. Let me move all this. So from 0 to handstand. So the first thing in the cliff notes is from 0 to handstand. So if you don't have handstand at all, how do you start? So from the very basic, and even if you have handstand, I think this is good for you to kind of like refresh. But the way I usually teach handstand, most people just say, oh, kick up and use a wall. But I tend to not really, I don't really encourage people to use a wall at first because it makes them like rely on it. So I usually use this progression. You start in a plank like this, and then you basically just walk your feet towards your hands as much as you can until your hips are right above your hands, or as close to above your hands as you can. You should be on your tiptoes leaning forward, and then, like I say in my workshop, or in my stream every time, lift up one leg, and if this is easy, try hopping off, and if this is easy, try hopping up and lifting off a little bit higher. And once you feel comfortable, try keeping that core tight and those legs tight. And from this point on, everything you do with your handstands is going to be legs tight, core tight. And then also everything is going to be tight. You're not going to relax anything really. So yeah, from this moment on, as soon as you kick up, you need to keep your legs tight, keep your core engaged. So you walked up like this, bent one leg in like this, and then hop. And this is going to be the start for your handstand. So the way I teach handstand first, people are like, oh, your legs should be straight together like this. Your legs should be open in a straddle. I don't think that's the way to go for beginners. So this progression leads up into bicycle legs. So you're going to kick up from here, bend one leg, kick it up, and hold it as long as you can. Maybe it's half a second, 2 seconds, it doesn't matter. Try doing that. So the reason why I have my legs in this position right here and kicking up, no matter what leg position you do, you're going to be starting from this position right here. And I recommend, instead of just jumping in a handstand like this, with your hands, throwing your hands on the ground, try keeping your hands on the ground first. So have your hands planted already, shoulder width apart, fingers pointing forward, not diagonal, not sideways, fingers pointing forward. And the way I like to start this is always look between your hands. I know some people strive to look through their hands like this, but that tends to throw off your balance, especially for beginners. So there will be a point where, yes, you could look through your hands as like an exercise, but for beginners, I recommend looking at the floor first. That way you kind of get a sense of orientation. So, with that being said, you kick up in this fashion, and the first instinctual leg position is a bicycle legs. So your legs are kind of like in this position. I don't know if you can see my legs. Let me tilt this camera up so you can see my legs a little bit better. There we go. All right, I'll get closer to the wall too. So, you're gonna kick up your legs like this, and no matter what I do, if I do crunch legs, if I do open legs, if I do straight legs, I'm always kicking up from this same position. So that's how we're gonna start doing our handstands. We're gonna start in this position right here, and just practice right now, just kicking up. And if you can handstand already, try holding it in this position right here. One leg, it doesn't matter which leg is in front and which leg is behind. Have one leg in front and one leg behind. It's a bicycle. The reason why I'm teaching it like this is because when your legs are in bicycle position, like this, the only ways you can fall is backwards and forwards, like this. You can only fall this way or that way. Compared to if you have your legs open or if you have your legs in any other position, you can fall forward, backwards, side to side. You're basically limiting the ways you can fall. So bicycle legs only allow you to fall forward and backwards instead of side to side. So if you're trying to do a pencil or straddle, those are going to give you more options to fall forward, backwards, side to side. So bicycle legs, again, keep you limiting your falling points. So the next thing is the reason why I also encourage you to learn bicycle is because when you have your legs in this position, let's say I'm falling backwards like this. I'm falling towards my back. My leg that's in front, I can use that and pull my knee in towards my chest and keep myself from falling. So that's going to counterbalance. So now you have, if you get comfortable with your legs in bicycle position, you can start using those to either anchor backwards or tighten and pull it forward. So whichever way you're falling, it's going to be able to allow you to control that balance. So if you're in pencil or if you're in straddle, it's going to be a lot harder to not only have more falling points to try and balance between, but also all you have to do if you fall backwards, pull that leg in that's in front, or if you're falling forwards, anchor that leg behind you back. So again, when you're in this position, you kick up in bicycle. If I'm falling backwards, I pull that leg that's in front, pull that knee towards the chest, and if I'm falling forward, I can use this anchor leg and pull it back. And that's going to be your bread and butter for the starting position for handstand. So out of all the variations, I recommend doing that one first. So get used to doing that exercise for both legs. So I say do whichever side you're comfortable with first. So I'm used to kicking off with my left leg and then with my right leg pulling back, or vice versa. Try doing it the other way, switching your legs. And it might be similar to learning handstand all over again. So going from plank, walking up, switching, and then kicking up. You might be more used to that than the other side. You might find where you struggle more. And also the balance points. If you're used to anchoring with one leg, now try pulling it in. So once you get a good bicycle with one set of legs, then try switching over to the next. So some other tips as we do handstands. Once you find your balance for handstands, let's say in any bicycle position, whether it's right leg in front or right leg behind, you're going to want to start to extend your shoulders. What I mean by that is when you're in handstand, a lot of people, you're going to bend your elbows and you're going to start falling. It's going to look like this a little bit. It's going to look a little bit shaky. Totally fine. One, always have your elbows locked. That's the biggest tip. Two, underrated slapper tip that a lot of people don't know about is that with your shoulders, you need to kind of like extend them. So you need to kind of push up. I'll show you what I mean in a second, but it should feel like you're almost like reaching. So if you're reaching for something, see how my shoulder extends? So there's a difference between here, doing a handstand, and then reaching out with your shoulders like this. So you kind of see it in my handstand. Whatever leg position I'm in, regular, and then extended. And this extended is going to lock my arms in place, no matter what leg position I'm doing in my handstand. So that's an underrated slapper that a lot of people don't know about. So I call it like reaching for the stars. What you want to do is have your shoulders going from this relaxed position and just locking your elbows to locking your elbows and really reaching with those shoulders. So, like I said, get used to doing one side of the bicycles. And especially, you guys will see it a lot when we stream. When we do the 1 minute handstand, I usually either do bicycles or straddle. I do straddle because I'm used to it, but you'll always catch me doing bicycle. If I start losing my balance, getting tired, then I can go back to bicycle. I always revert to that basic. and that's kind of like my go-to when I'm learning handstands. So always go to bicycle, whichever side that you prefer first. Practice reaching and extending with those shoulders, and then once you're used to this position, then try switching the legs, and then practice falling a little bit, pulling that leg in, falling a little bit, anchoring that leg back. All right, so that's it for the first handstand. Also, one really big tip before I forget to mention it and before I move on, with your fingers, a lot of people will say grip the floor. I grip the floor all the time, but as you're practicing leaning between sides, so like if I'm anchoring my foot back or pulling my knee in, as I'm doing that, if I'm losing balance, it's kind of analogous to your feet. So if someone pushes me forward like this, to keep myself from falling, I lean onto my toes. If someone pushes me backwards, I lean onto my heels before I take a step back, right? The exact same thing is with handstands. So if I'm leaning forward, if I'm falling forward, my weight is going to go to my hands. I'm going to push with my fingertips. Conversely, if I'm falling backwards, if I want to stay up, my palms are going to be like my heels. So I really need to have all my weight on my heels to pull myself back up. So just like someone pushing me forward, I have all my weight on my toes. If I'm falling forward in my handstand, all my weight should be on my fingertips, pushing me back. So that's kind of super small tip, big slapper that a lot of people don't realize. So yeah, you should always extend the shoulders, right? But when you're on your fingers, between your fingers and palms, practice using both. Like if I'm leaning too far back, first bring this foot in, and then also lean onto your fingers. So as soon as your fingers are kind of like an indicator of like, oh, I'm falling too far back. Just like your feet are. When you get pushed like this, it's an indicator, oh, like this is like a natural like indicator that like, oh, like I need to shift my weight backwards and forwards depending on how my toes are. So yeah, that's gonna be, you wanna focus on the legs more, I would say, because that's what's gonna bring you to center, but then once you get used to it, you can use your fingers a little bit. So it's kind of like a balance between top and bottom. So like your fingers on the ground, your feet or your legs are on the top, and you're kind of like, if you have a lot to pull back, then use your legs. If it's only a little bit, like micro movements, then you can use your fingers only. There's times where like I don't use my legs at all to pull myself back. I can just like use my fingers just like my feet, pull myself back. The biggest way I can simplify it is the leg that's on your belly side, that's in front, pulling towards your chest. If this one can just anchor back, the one that's in front, you really have to pull it into your chest. As you pull it into your chest, you're gonna see my hips, they're gonna start to like concave. And as they concave, it's gonna allow me to recenter above myself. So when I'm in handstand, everything should be in a perfect line, right? So your hands should be on the floor, or I guess your wrist, and then it should be your elbow, your shoulder, your hips, your knees, your feet, right? That makes a perfect line. So basically, if my hips are falling backwards, how can I pull my hips forward? I can use this leg and pull it towards me, right? So let's say I'm in handstand, I'm falling backwards, my hips are sinking behind me. I can use this knee and pull it in, and it's gonna adjust my hips. So the most simplified answer for you wanted chips is to pull that knee in as much as you can. So, but really keep both legs tight and then pull the knee in on the belly side. That would be the biggest, most simplified tip for the bicycle legs. And I can't stress it enough. I always recommend starting with that. Everyone's gonna say, oh, keep your legs, penciled, keep your legs open, whatever. Perfect form doesn't matter when you're learning. The goal is to get to that perfect form. The goal is not to start with it, right? So use these as stepping stones to get to that point. So after we do bicycle legs, so the next thing, if you guys are looking at the Google Doc, is going from going from bicycle legs to crunch legs like this, having both legs in front of you. So now you don't have something that anchors you back anymore. So here's what it's gonna look like. You're gonna be in handstand and both legs are gonna be crunched in like this. right in front of you. Knees to chest. Your hip right on top of your shoulders, which are right on top of your elbows, right on top of your wrist. The thing is, with this, a lot of people will struggle with their feet falling down to the floor, and they won't be able to lean back. They'll just keep falling down towards their feet. So, compare that to bicycle where you have one leg behind you, and if I'm falling forward, I can always just pull my leg back. But for this, I don't have any sort of, I would say like, fail-safe for your legs. So this is going to be a little bit more challenging compared to the bicycle legs, but this is, I would say, the first step into moving into the right direction as far as like the perfect handstand. Once you, I guess the way you start this is once you're comfortable with both bicycle legs, you're going to use that anchor leg in the back. I'm going to call that the anchor leg. Whichever leg you choose to be behind you, you're going to start to crunch that leg in. So I would recommend starting in bicycle legs, whichever side is more comfortable to you. So for me, this is more comfortable. The back leg right here, I'm going to slowly try to bring it in. And as I do this, I'm keeping both my legs tight. I'm using my hip like this. So if I'm in bicycle legs like this, I'm using this hip and slowly bringing that leg in. And the reason why I'm doing it so slowly is because the faster I do it, like let's say I do it really fast, I whip it in, I'm gonna bring my whole body to the ground. So I recommend getting the balance for the bicycle first and then bringing in both legs. And then practice doing that from both sides. So I just did here, and then I brought in this leg. Conversely, do it the other side, start here, and then bring it in. Practice doing that. And the reason why I teaching it like that is because when you're doing handstand, and let's say I start leaning forward, there are times where I'm doing a crunch handstand and I have to use my leg to anchor back. I need to have the control, like, oh, I'm falling back, or I'm falling forward, like, oh, I'm falling forward right here, let me pull this leg back. And then once I'm safe, bring it back in. And the reason why we're learning the crunch legs is because this is kind of like the base for everything we're going to be doing from here on out. So if you can have both your legs crunched in together like this, then it opens you up to be able to do a Nike, a pike, or straddle. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. Like to have both your legs piked. Even though straddle and Nike, it doesn't seem like your legs are piked, but low key, they are piked, and we'll get to that later. But yes, having both legs crunch is super crucial when learning any progression from here on out, even when you have straight legs. So the secret to having your legs crunched in is to kind of think about it like an Asian squat. It's gonna be like this. You guys have ever Asian squatted before? And if you haven't, it's okay. Any squat position will do, but the goal is to have your knees to your chest as much as you can. Another tip for this is also not only to have Asian squat. So if you're in Asian squat, your feet are ideally parallel to the ground because they're on the ground. But conversely, you're in this same position in handstand, your feet should be parallel to the ceiling. So I'm here. Ideally, my feet should be parallel to the ceiling, like this. This also gets me ready for transition. So whenever I want to pump into a elbow freeze, a stab, I'm going to use the same technique. So not only does this help for other handstand forms, but this also is super useful when doing transitions. So you're here, you want to go to elbow freeze, pop, catch. This is kind of like the bread and butter for not just handstands. So if bicycle legs was the bread and butter for handstands, this is going to be the bread and butter for handstands and everything else. So we won't go on that tangent of like getting a really good Asian squat, because I think also if you can Asian squat, like I could Asian squat pretty much my whole life, but it took me a long time to get it in this form. So no matter what squat you have or how good or bad your squats are, getting it into your moves and your your handstands especially, it's gonna take like another, it's like learning another move in a sense. Asian squat is kind of the secret to having your legs crunched in handstand, keeping those feet parallel with the ceiling. And then at this point, you should also focus on keeping your back straight. So, but before we actually, yeah, we'll do that. Keeping your back straight. So when we did before the bicycle one, you can see my back is kind of bent a little bit. And this is normal because you're gonna have a leg that's hanging in the back. Other side, your back is probably gonna be a little bit bent because you have one leg hanging back. So you're gonna be like a little bit like banana with your back, which try to keep your back as straight as possible when you're doing that. But if you're doing Asian squat or the crunched in version, try to keep your back as straight as you can, all right? So it's gonna look like this. Instead of having your back curved, you'll see a lot of people do banana handstands like this, or whatever, and it's like a hollow back. You really wanna try, keep your back straight. One, it's good for your back. Two, it'll also make you hold your handstands longer. Everything's gonna be a lot more engaged. When you transition, it's gonna help out on the long run because you're gonna have more control over your handstand. Let's see, what's the best drill for protecting Asian squat and handstand? Best drill for perfecting Asian squat and handstand probably be really just engaging. So like you have to consciously engage in your handstand. So I would just practice handstand, and it sounds like a really generic answer, but really just holding your handstand or any freeze really, and engaging your hips, trying to bring your knees to your chest as close as possible, and then keeping all of that super like I really when I was learning, I really had to like focus on bringing those legs in. So I would work on like any freeze, like elbow freeze or handstand or something like that, and really try and bring those legs in as much as I could. And notice if I bring my legs in too much like this, my back starts arching inward instead of bananaing outwards. So try to keep your back as straight as you can as you do this. But the goal is to be able to do it while in handstand and really just engage your hip, bring those knees in. That's really the only way to do it. So yes, that was a great question, AC Marching, my boy Alex. So basically when both your legs are crunched, you should really focus keeping your back as straight as you can. The next thing to cover what I said earlier. So as you can see, if my legs are in front of me, you can see my back start to like curve inwards like this towards my legs. And to mitigate that, it's kind of a balance, and it's kind of, when you first hear about it, it's kind of counterintuitive, but you want to kind of arch your hips backwards. So you want your back straight, but your hips are going to fall a little bit backwards. So it's going to be a little bit like an invert. So if you've seen an invert before, is where your back is leaning like outward like this and your legs are in front. That's kind of the same thing, but you want your back straight, your hips to rotate a little bit outwards. So you want to kind of like stick your butt out in a sense. So that way, if your legs are in front of you, your butt is kind of like, or your hips are going to be behind you, acting as that anchor leg. So my butt out here, or my hips, are leaning outwards. It's playing the same role as that anchor leg in the back. As I pull that leg in, my butt is essentially going to replace that leg that was in the back anchoring, because both my legs are going to be in front of me. So that's kind of like super small tip. Having your hip anchored in the back might cause you to curve your back. So really focus on keeping that back straight, isolating those hips, and then rotating them so that they counteract and act as that anchor leg. So yes, once you get to this point, you're going to want to have both your legs in front of you as tight as you can. The Asian squat is not a requirement, but it is a way to think about the way your legs crunch in. So you don't have to have it, but as long as you have that mindset of this is how much my legs need to be crunched in or should be crunched in, or how much I need to work to get there, then I think that's a pretty good place to be mentally. And then since your legs are in front like this, you're gonna fall forward. So I'm gonna be falling like this more times than not. So to mitigate that, you have that leg acting as that leg in the back as an anchor, you're gonna instead replace that with your hips and rotate backwards. So from here, opening out your hips to where your butt is kind of acting as the that anchor leg, as we did in the bicycle. For now, let's move on to Nike. So before we get into the actual handstand Nike, I want to say that I kind of like to divide it into two different types of Nike freeze. So there's one Nike freeze where your legs are like this, which everyone's MySpace / early beginner Facebook profile picture is this Nike right here. Your bent leg is out like this, and it's flush with your body. There's no curve. And there's another Nike freeze where your leg is inward like this, and it's kind of like an Asian squat in a sense. So this is like, I call this the pike Nike, where you're pretty much piked, but in a Nike. And then here's an open Nike with your hips flush like this. So I'm gonna, I'll be going over both of those types in this next section. So when you pump for Asian squat, does your butt still need to be past your hands? Yes. So if I'm pumping from Asian squat and my hips are rotated out like this, and let's say I want to go to elbow freeze, my hips still want to be rotated out. Short answer is yes, and this is just to balance you not having anything in the back. So essentially, both legs are in front of you, your hips are rotated so your butt is behind you to replace the anchor leg. So yeah, whenever you transition, always try to keep that same, like keep your back straight, but then arch, like rotate your hips out to have your butt sticking out essentially. So the next thing with Nike, there's two kinds of Nikes briefly. There's open Nike where your leg is flush. There's piked Nike where your leg is piked in like this, crunched in, whew, like a pike. So now that we're at this point, we went from having our two fall points, which is like forward and backwards. So if I'm doing a handstand like this in bicycle, I can fall forwards, backwards. If I'm in Asian squat, more likely than not, forward and backwards. And now we're introducing Nike. So one leg is going to be straight out like this. And now I have forward, backward, and sideways fall points. So now I'm kind of opening up, I would say instead of all four directions, it's now three directions. So it's forward, backwards, and whichever leg you decide to stick out. That's going to kind of be your extra falling point. That's going to be your third one. So start off with whichever side is more comfortable for you. So I'm used to Nikeing with my left leg out and my right leg tucked in. And that's because when I do my one hand Nike freeze, I'm on my right hand. So if you don't know which way to do it, if you're right-handed or you do freezes on your right hand, whatever dominant hand you're using, bend that same corresponding leg. So that's the way I kind of gauge it. Let's see. So the extended leg, you're going to do the same thing, and the reason why we went over the leg crunch and having them piked in like this is because when I open out my legs in a Nike position, notice that this leg is still folded in. It's doing the exact same thing as the crunched in. All it's doing is just straightening out. So hip-wise, the angle is going to be the same as if I'm crunched in, and I'll show you what I mean. Give me a handstand, legs crunched in, extend. Bring it back in, Asian squat. All I'm doing is straightening out that knee. And that's for the straight leg. So, the reason why I'm teaching with your legs crunched in first, even though it doesn't seem like, it's really gonna apply or only applies for transitions, is because when you do your Nikes, you wanna have that same fold that you have with your hips, and all you're doing is extending that leg straight. Whew. So, the next thing, the other leg, keep it, for the first one, we'll do the pike one. So we'll keep it in that same Asian squat. So try and get Asian squat like this, or the crunched in Nike. Keep both legs in, and then whichever leg you want, extend it out. Extend it out, and you have a piked Nike like this. Conversely, there is another one, right, where people like to Nike with their leg out, which with their leg flush to their body. Instead of piked in, it's open. Instead of piked in, it's open. And usually I see this when people try to freeze, they'll keep that leg extended, or they'll keep that leg flush with their bodies. And we'll go over that one in a second. But before we do that, the progression is from a bicycle, having your legs cross like this, into a squatting position. From squatting, extend one leg only, just by the knee, maintaining that angle with your hips and your leg, and only extending one leg. All right, so now we learned the pike Nike, and all it is just having your legs crunched in and extending one of those legs. So again, pike Nike, crunched in, extend one of those legs, either one. That fold in your hips should be the same as both legs crunched in. So the next one is going to be more similar to bicycle, and it's going to be with your legs open. So as I was showing you earlier, here's the one we just did. The other one is extending this leg now. The bent leg is now flush with my body. And this one is going to be a little bit more like the bicycle we did, with one leg behind, one leg in front. It's going to be really similar to this. And all it is essentially doing a bicycle, but instead of having that whole leg anchoring back, you're only going to have from the knee onward. So let's say I'm doing crunched in, Nike like this, and then have it flexed out. Oh, you can't even see it. Let me angle this upward. Maybe this is better for now. So I'm going to have both legs crunched in, one leg extended out, and the other one is just going to be flush with my body. My shin, my calf is the only thing that's hanging over. So think about it like a bicycle instead. So instead of having that front leg being like with your knee to your chest, instead of knee to your chest, it's going to be straightened out, folding just like you do in the Asian squat, with the other leg flush with your body. So from here, extend one leg, keep this same angle right here, with the other leg straighten, open out. So now it's really similar to a bicycle. If you're like this. Show you again. I wonder if you can even see it. Show the similarities. So now you can go from crunched in, to pike Nike, open Nike, to bicycle. So all Nike is, open Nike is bicycle, with that leg that's in front opened out to the side, and pull that leg in a little bit, that back leg. Whew. Brief overview for that. Now, if you understand the leg tuck in, the both legs crunched, a lot of this will be very easy. So, after Nike, I know this isn't in the notes, but I pair these together, Nike and pike. So, I'll go over pike really quickly because it's really similar to Nike. So, with pike, all it is Nike, I would say from Asian squat, like this. You open out to Nike, bring this leg in even more, almost feels like crossing your body, and all you have to do from here is just straighten it. And that's gonna be a pike position. You're here, Asian squat, Nike, pike. And then if you wanna go one hand, then practice it just like you did with Nike, but go to one hand. So keep in mind, regardless of whichever Nike you do, whether it's piked Nike or open Nike, this leg is still the same. It's still, this angle is still the same no matter what. If you're here or you're open, you want to keep this angle, and that's the most important thing. Moving away from Nike, we're going to go into straddle. Does anybody have any questions about Nike handstand, pike handstand? Yes, pike Nikes will be critical for like freeze transitions. So you have open Nike. So when I stick my freezes, I'll stick it with open Nike. But if I want to transition, I'll do pike Nike like this, and then pump to elbow, pump to stab, pump to handstand. I bring that knee in because if I ever pump and it opens out like this, then I risk the chance of falling backwards. All right, so now let's get into straddle. So what straddle is gonna be with your legs open like this. And from here on out, you had bicycle, which your fall points were forward and backwards. You have Nike, which your fall points forward and backwards, and whichever leg you have extended is gonna be a fall point. Now, with straddle, you have both legs extended, and you essentially have 4 fall points: forward, backward, side to side. So this is going to be a lot trickier than doing any other handstand. And essentially, both your straight legs should feel the same type of like tension or tightness that one of your legs feels when you do a Nike. So you're applying this same angle and tension and engagement on your hips, but for both legs. So it's just like a Nike, but keeping both those legs open. And keeping both those legs extended and tight. So let's do it from the tuck right here. So crunched in, extending one to Nike, and then just like the other, extending the other into Nike. So notice how my hips are still folded in. Nothing from my knee up to my hip is changing. All I'm doing is extending. Again, from the tuck, I'm here, extend, extend. Nothing from my knee to my hip is changing. All right? So that's kind of like the overview for straddle. Next thing in the notes. So when you do straddle, a lot of people, let me angle this upwards. A lot of people, when they do their handstands, you'll notice that just like the open Nike, like this, where their hips are flush with their body, they're gonna have their straddle and their hips are gonna be flush with their body. You do not want it to be straight up. And I'll show you the difference. So the way I just showed you, with your legs tucked in and open, this is correct. Your legs should be piked. But from your hips, if you open them out, notice how I'm kind of arching my back and leaning back, and I'll show you from the side. So if I do straddle, from crunch, fold it in. If I extend it, it becomes flush with my body and I start to banana. And then this is where people start walking, losing their balance. And we'll get to walking in a second when you're walking your handstands. Someone remind me to get to that point later for like walking handstands. But we'll move on to the form at least for straddle. So this, keeping your legs piked in like a crunch and extending from the knees, is going to keep you from falling backwards. So it's going to keep you from banana in your body, and keep you. It's going to be just like the same thing as we were doing for the bicycle legs. You pull that leg in, you're going to start to curve inward. Having your legs curved in, or I guess tucked in, from the hips is going to keep you from arching your back and falling backwards. Whew. But yes, so tuck, yeah, doing the crunched handstand, you absolutely need the balance. Straddle, you can get by. It is a little bit easier to balance because you have your weight distributed. But I would say if you learn the tuck one, foundationally that's the hardest one, but or one of the hardest. But if you can master that, then you can pretty much do any of these. Straddle, back to this. So it's the exact same principle as the crunch, except all you're doing is just extending from your knees, just like the pike Nike. So if I'm doing the crunch in like this, let's see, I don't know what the best angle is. Doing the crunch in, extending one, that's Nike, a pike Nike, extend the other, that's a straddle. So notice how my feet, my toes are pointing to the ground, and not pointing upwards. Folding in, not up. Does that make sense? Also, next point is, just like your legs crunched in, remember how we had our hips rotating backwards to counterbalance. It's gonna be the exact same thing because your legs are still in front of you. So if I'm here, my legs are in front of me, I use my hips, rotate them out to counterbalance. Same thing with this. Instead of having them crunched in, rotate those hips out to counterbalance. So you're kind of sticking your butt out a little bit, just like you did in the crunch one, to counterbalance the legs that are folded in front of you. I wouldn't say both straddles are useful. I would say the piked one, where your legs are crunched in, is exponentially more useful than the one where you're relaxed and open and your hips are flush with your legs. So for sure, doing straddle with the angle right here is way more important to learn. And you're gonna feel the same stretch when we do straddle, just like this. Notice, like, we don't do straddle and just lay down. We straddle and keep that angle, almost like a 90-degree angle with the floor, I guess. Like if our bodies are straight up, it's kind of keeping that angle. You want to aim for that same angle in your handstand. But I recommend doing it from the crunch because that's how you get that most, or I guess the most tightness, if you will. I didn't say this in the Nike, I didn't say this in the legs crunched in, but I did say this in the bicycle. Extend your shoulders. This applies to all of them. So shoulders extended, everything, all the advice I had said before, everything applies to straddle. The only difference is you're just, from your knee onward, you're just opening it up. Everything else is the same. So straddle, all these things, I don't really like to confuse it that much. So learn bicycle, learn crunched in, and you pretty much have a lot of different options from there. Because once you land it crunched in, you can open it out to pike Nike, you can open it out to straddle where both your legs are open, still at the angle. And then if you want to do open Nike, no problem. You can, if you master the straddle, you can do the open one. So, any questions for straddle? I feel like once you learn all these things, straddle is the most straightforward. Nothing crazy happens or changes. Everything is the same. Basically, from your knees, once you get to the crunch part, from your knees all the way to your hands, everything is the same. Let's see. So, we did straddle, or sorry, we did bicycle, we did crunched in, we did Nike on both sides, pike a little bit, and then we did straddle. And all led up to that so far. And now we're gonna get into closed legs or pencil, where your legs are closed together. A lot of people say this is the perfect form, this is the form that you want, this is the final form or whatever, but I hardly, like, it's nice to have, but I hardly see people apply it in breaking as far as like, oh, I'm gonna do a pencil handstand. Like, I don't really see people like using it like that, but it is nice to have, and I think for a handstand workshop we should have this. So, for pencil handstand, it's gonna look like this. I'll show you from this angle. Legs are closed and together. All right. So hardly see people use it, but nice to have. People will say it's the perfect form. Yeah, I don't really care for it. Yeah. So before we get into pencil, I just want to say, like, a lot of people, they'll start off their handstands and they'll try to go for that perfect form, the handstand form, but they start to like arch their back, bend their legs back. It starts to look. Let me angle this upwards to show you how ugly this is gonna look. They're gonna start to arch their back like this. Their legs are gonna fall back, and then that's when they start walking or whatever and falling backwards. So that is not what you want. You want a controlled togetherness, or you want a controlled together pencil or closed handstand. What is this? Will it focus? Oh, whatever. So the reason why this is the last one we're learning, even though this is like the perfect form one, is because I think it takes the most amount of back control and hip control to maintain this. Why is it doing this? Is it gonna get back in focus? Who knows? There we go. Hey, let's go. All right. Wow, more HD than ever. Cool. So thank you guys for putting up with that. So the thing with this one is the reason why people arch their back, bend their legs, start to banana is because there are so many fall points, right? And it bothers me the most when people start off doing pencil handstands. Their hands are not straight, they're like sideways or diagonal. Their backs are arched. It's the worst form ever. It looks like this. And they start walking around. Biggest pet peeve ever. I hate to see it. Hate to see it. So, I'm teaching this last because this one requires the most amount of back control, hip control, and leg control, even though it doesn't seem like it. So, with this one, I mean, there are so many, I guess, errors you can point out. So I guess we'll start with the shoulders. So first thing, keep the shoulders extended, especially for this one, because keeping your shoulders extended will keep you from, will kind of like be that point where you're like tightened, and it's that pivot point where to keep you from falling. So if I don't lock my shoulders, it kind of gives me a way to fold this way or this way, if that makes sense. So I can fall backward or forward, pivoting off my shoulders if I'm not extending it. So if I'm not extending it, I can fall either way. Doesn't matter. So I guess I should have explained that before. But when it comes to pencil handstands, this is the most important thing. Having the shoulders extended and locked to keep yourself from folding your body, or I guess folding from that point. All right, the next thing is keeping that back straight. So keep that back straight. First, I would say, don't get into pencil or closed leg handstand straight away, especially if you're starting. I would say get into bicycle or get into Asian squat or crunch leg first. The reason why is because you want to have your back straight from the start. So now, now I can kick into it. At this point, I can kick into it. My back is already straight because I have that control. But if you're working up to that, it's hard to just kick into it and just expect your back to be straight. So what I recommend is starting from bicycle or crunch legs, having that back straight, and then extending those legs upwards. So just remember, keep those shoulders extended, reach. That back should be straight, and you can straighten your back by either starting from a familiar position. So if Nike is easier for you, or if that's what you're most comfortable with, keeping your back straight, then do a Nike freeze or a straddle. It doesn't matter. As long as you're comfortable doing a handstand with your back straight, go from there and then try doing the pencil. So again, like I said, this pencil or closed leg handstand has a lot of fall points. So not only can you fall forward, backwards, side to side, you can fall diagonally, which essentially, if you start leaning a certain way, you're gonna fall that direction because it's essentially like balancing a pencil on your hand, right? So what I recommend is also staying tight. So everything needs to be tightened. So your legs, just like in the squat, in the Nike, in your bicycle legs, you kind of have to apply that same tension in your legs, that same engagement in your pencil handstand. So your legs cannot afford, even though they're straight up like this, they can't afford to relax. So your legs should be equally as engaged, if not more engaged, in your pencil handstand than in any other freeze, or I guess handstand leg position. And also, a way to go about this, or thinking about this, is it kind of looks like my legs are flush with my body, so it looks like this, but my legs are slightly piked like this. So I have my hips rotated out, and you can't even see it, but my legs are slightly piked when I'm doing it. And this is because if I keep my legs like outward like this, I'm gonna start to banana, and that's like the worst thing you can do. So as soon as you banana, especially as a beginner, as soon as you banana, your handstand is gone. So always, it's better to have it a little bit piked, start a little bit piked. So like, let's say I have it here, slowly extend it upward. I'm still keeping that slight pike in my hips, rolling those hips backwards so I can hold this pencil. Because if I open it out all the way like this, my legs start to lean back and then it starts to break. So, does that make sense? So yes, extend the shoulders, keep your back straight, legs, hips are slightly piked a little bit, keeps you from falling backwards, and also legs should be equally as engaged as any other position we've learned so far. So that's kind of going from lowest point all the way to the top, from your hands all the way to your legs. So that's kind of the general overview for pencil. I didn't really practice pencil handstands because, I don't know, I just never, I wouldn't say I didn't practice them, I practiced them, but I never found a way to like put them into my breaking, so it's kind of just there. And I would say I'm more comfortable in like a Nike or my legs crunched together just because I use it more and I apply it more. And you might find the same thing too. You don't have to get a perfect closed pencil handstand. It's honestly just for looks. It depends on what you want out of it. So yes, big takeaway, max cal, avoid banana form. Banana form will cause you to walk forwards, and that's something you don't want. So we just finished all the handstand, like the two-hand handstand portion, and I'm not going to get into one hand. I'm only going to get into Nike and pike, just holding the freeze, not doing a hand balance. But before we get into that, I wanted to touch on something Max brought up, which is a good takeaway, which is walking. So you're in handstand and you're slightly walking. So how do I address this? Walking isn't bad, but it shows a lack of control. So what you want to do, the goal is to hold the easiest, most comfortable hand position or leg position for you. So like, let's say I'm learning handstand for the first time and I get my bicycle first and I'm walking a little bit. I'm not going to learn to switch my legs until I can hold that one still first. So I'm learning handstand. My very first handstand is a bicycle, but it's causing me to walk a little bit. I'm not going to learn to switch my legs, crunch them in, Nike or whatever, until I can hold just my hands still. Yeah, until I can hold my hands still and I'm not walking. So always try to keep yourself from walking. And we kind of touched on this before, but use those fingers to keep yourself from walking. So if I feel like I'm leaning forward, really use those fingers to push yourself back, and then use the legs to counterbalance, just like we did. And this goes for like squatted, crunched in, Nike. So if you're crunched in and you're falling backwards, those hips are leaning too far back, bring those knees in more. Same thing with Nike. If my leg is too far back, use that other leg, pull in even tighter, pull in that knee into pike. So there are plenty of ways to keep yourself from walking, but the most important thing is before you consider moving on to the next step or the next leg position, try to get that leg position without walking first. So that should be the goal. Get one, like bicycle without walking, other side bicycle without walking, legs crunched in without walking, Nike without walking, Nike on the other side without walking, straddle without walking, and then pencil without walking. So that should be the progression. And then no matter what, like let's say I get it all to the point where I'm not walking at all, and I want to apply handstands to my breaking, but let's say I'm transitioning from stab to handstand, but I push up and I start walking. A good way to practice your control is for walking to be an option. So you don't want to walk because you don't want to. You want to walk with intention so you can recover next time. So once you get all these positions up until like straddle, I would say you don't even need to hold it still with pencil. I don't really care about pencil. Straddle is kind of like the pinnacle for me. So if you can do it till straddle, like this, now walking, try controlling it. Take 3 steps and stop. Take another 3 steps and stop. And then continue that over and over. So it should be a choice. So now the drill should be walk, 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 stop. Step, 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 stop. Right? And then when you get really good at it, walk, 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 stop. Walk, 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 stop. Turn around. So let's say you're here. Walk, walk, walk. Stop. Turn around. Right? That, and then I don't have enough space to turn around, but turn around and then stop. Turn around and then stop. So now when I apply it to my breaking, if I'm doing elbow to handstand, I walk a little bit. it's okay. I can stop it. And then I can go back to what I was doing. So that's kind of like a drill. So once you learn handstand, or once you start learning handstand, start doing it to where you don't walk, and then basically get everything until you stop walking. Once you get everything, then do it to where you're purposely starting to walk and then stopping when you choose to. And that's gonna build up an insane amount of control for you and open up a lot of doors for your braking, especially your transitions. So as far as walking goes, that's kind of where I'm at. Oh yes, so different hand placements. So just like walking, there's gonna be something you don't want at first, which is I don't want to walk first, and then you're gonna want to walk later with intention. Same thing with hand placement. So always fingers pointing forward, not diagonal, not sideways. But for starters, have your hands shoulder width apart like this. And the reason why you're doing this is because if your hands are wider, you're shifting your weight more. So if I'm trying to balance myself, I'm gonna be shifting my weight more and more, and I'm gonna be wasting energy. So hand placement together, as close as you can, try to maintain that focal point, so that way you're not shifting your weight. So this is basically so you don't waste energy, and also you build up good form. Everything is on top of yourself. If your arms are out like this, your shoulders are no longer above your hands, your hips are no longer above your hands, and so on. So when you're like this, everything kind of stacks nicely together. So when you're learning it, yes, have your hands right under you, right underneath your shoulders, so that way you're not, and this is if you're trying to learn just handstand. But if you're trying to apply it, then you can start doing wide hand placement. So if your hands are like this, like further away, you know, this might be like a move you're trying to get. But I would say once you get handstand, once you get like straddle, once you get used to all the leg positions and you can control your handstand, then I would recommend doing whatever hand placement. You can do like weird hand placement like this. You can have one hand's like up and one hand down or whatever. Who cares? I don't know. Like one hand like this. Like a whole lot of b-boys can switch up their handstands in many different ways. But the main thing is mastering the basic. And then once you master it, then you can start playing around with different hand positions, different placements. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. So it's going to be just like walking. First, you don't want to walk. First, you don't want to have your hands open. But then once you get all the forms down and everything is good, then try walking. Then try doing variations with your hands. So that's kind of my take on hand placement. All right, so next thing in the clip notes is Nike. So handstand Nike, as Troy was saying, we do different Nikes. I do more of a pike Nike, and it's used more for transitions. And he does like an open Nike where his legs, one leg is flush with his body. There's no bending like mine. So you can do either, it doesn't really matter. But I would say for transitions, definitely use that pike Nike. Let's see. So with Nike or pike, what I'd like to do, and this kind of goes into my handstand drills, and I think this will kind of help those of you who follow my stream. We do a drill, which is handstand to Nike, be let go. So yeah, a lot of people, like I said, will do Nike, and they'll just put their hand down and kick up. And that's great and all, but I don't think it's as effective when you're trying to, let's get this in focus. When you're trying to apply it to different parts of your braking. Oh my goodness. This is gonna work. Please work with me. Please. There we go. All right, so we'll go over that real quick. So your handstand, you get into that position. I do it with my legs tucked in, open out one leg, and I shift over, and I let go. All right, and now as you can see, with my head, I'm looking through my hands. And the way I like to think about it is whenever I do a freeze, oh my gosh, it's out of focus again. Ugh. All right, whenever I do a freeze, whichever way the back of my wrist is pointing, that's where I'm gonna look when I do that freeze. Okay, here we go. So if I'm doing Nike and my hand is like this. The back of my wrist is facing you guys. I'm gonna look towards you guys. So don't worry about my legs, don't worry about my hips. As soon as I do this, I'm looking towards you guys. So that's kind of how I like to gauge it. So any freeze, back of your wrist is where you look. So kind of like a quick tip. And like I said before, the arm you choose to freeze with for your Nike should be, the bent leg is the one that's corresponding to it. So my right arm is my freeze arm. The leg that I choose to bend will be my right leg. So no matter what, keep that bent leg tight, even if it's, keep both legs tight, even if it's piked or if it's open, you really have to engage those legs, keep it tight. And again, I like to look through, where my wrist is pointing, that's where I'm looking through. And then also, once you're in handstand and you decide to look through, you really want to open out that chest. So I'm here, I open out that chest. You don't want to have that closed chest when you're doing a Nike freeze. Otherwise, I mean, it's kind of like a one-hand stall. So looking through will kind of open out your chest for you, but really your shoulders should also open out too. So if I'm going to open out and look, you're going to do that same shoulder extension, except instead of straight up, I guess it's still going to push straight up, but the way your body's shifting is your arm's not going to be like straight under you. So what else? Okay, super important underrated tip for Nike and Pike is that, I'll use Nike for an example because you have one straight leg and I can just say your straight leg, but Pike, both your legs are straight. So for Nike, your straight leg, or the leg that's initially straight, same thing for Pike, the leg that's initially straight is essentially your make or break leg. Your freeze is only going to be as deep as this leg allows you to. So if your leg is this far away from you, your freeze is not going to be that deep. Same thing with Pike. You can have your leg here, but if this leg is brought all the way in, you can have a deeper Pike. Show you what I mean. If I do a Nike and this leg's not tight, the straight leg, I can hold it, but it's not going to be all the way in. So if I really pull that leg in towards my shoulder or towards my ear, lets me stick it a lot better. It's a lot more pretty. Same thing with Pike. So the range of motion that it's going to allow you is all dependent on that initially straight leg. So it's going to be the leg that's opposite of your arm. So if your corresponding arm or corresponding leg is bent, your other leg is going to decide how deep or how far that freeze is going to go. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Nike. And for Pike, I would start just like before. The progression from Nike into Pike is doing Nike with your one leg crunched in like this, and then shifting over, crunching it in. Oh, you can't even see it. Let me move this up. So again, you're here, Nike, instead of your leg opened out, it's crunched in, and then crunch it in. Practice doing that first, and then the more comfortable you are, try extending that foot further and further until you can hit the Pike. So Pike is essentially the same as Nike. All it is just really tightening that leg in and then extending from your knee to your foot slowly. So practice Nike and then practice Nike like this, practice Nike like this, and then slowly practice opening out more and more. That's the only difference between like a Pike Nike and a Pike, or a full Pike. And ideally, that leg that's bent, practice moving it across your body like this. So instead of having it piked with your legs right in front of you, move them until your initially bent leg or the same corresponding leg to your arm crosses your body. So it should be like this. Yes, so one more before we get into, or one more like air freeze before we get into Airbaby, which will be the crunch one. So it's gonna be just like pike, but you bring both your legs in, the crunch one. So if Airbaby is like this, and pike is like this, it's gonna be the same thing, both legs crunched in. So essentially, like Nike, all you do, take that leg, that's straight, bend it in. That's it. Different ways to practice it. Whew. All right, so Airbaby. I go over it on my stream all the time, but for you guys that don't tune in regularly, I'll go over it again. So basically, you're gonna take whatever hand you want, the dominant hand that you choose. Your fingers are gonna point sideways, and you're gonna bend that arm. And then once that arm is bent, you're gonna take your knee, that same corresponding knee, place it on, as high up on your tricep as you can, because your knee is gonna slide down like this eventually. So I like to put it as high up on my tricep as I can. Take the arm, put it down. With your other arm, not gonna put it next to you or diagonal, put it straight in front like this. And your other leg is gonna be straight and extended while the other one is bent. So it's gonna look like this when you're on the ground. And if you've never done Airbaby before, I would recommend holding it like this, just with these 3 points on the ground. And with this, your head should look right between your hands. So if my hands are right here, my eyes are looking right here, at this point right here. And then the more comfortable you are, try leaning forward towards that free hand and lifting up that leg. And that's gonna be a quick Airbaby tutorial. If you can already Airbaby, try leaning forward. And a few tips I have is, as you lean forward, your leg is gonna lift up, right? Once my leg lifts up and I lean backwards to straighten out this arm, so as I lean forward, this free arm is bending, but I want to straighten it back out because I want to eventually get one hand. But if I push back, my foot is going to go back to touch the ground. So to keep from doing that, as soon as I lean forward and lift my foot off the ground, I'm going to anchor that foot, going to angle it upwards a little bit. So when I lean back, it avoids the ground, and I can also straighten this arm. So you kind of have to change the angle for your seesaw to keep yourself from touching the ground. So again, you're here, you lean forward, you're gonna bend that arm slightly, and that's okay, to lift that foot off the ground. As soon as it's lifted, increase that angle a little bit, and then lean back. And then that's gonna keep you from touching the ground. And then you have Airbaby with your free arm straight. And that's the goal. So the goal for Airbaby, to get to one hand, is to be able to do it with your arm bent, lift up that leg, increase the angle, slowly push back to straighten that arm. And then once you get used to this and straightening this arm, then you can, with the straight arm, you can go on your fingertips like this. This is the next step. That's gonna be the closest thing that you'll wanna get to before you go into one hand. So Airbaby with your fingertips, your straight arm should be, your free arm should be straight on your fingertips. Airbaby is going to be relatively quick. Again, going to get into this position right here. Lean forward, you can bend your arm a little bit, but if you're past that point, you don't have to. You can just lift that angle, go onto your fingertips, and then from here, once you're in this position, to keep you from falling backwards, really, I'm still kind of like leaning a little bit forward. So if I'm here, I'm still leaning forward. I lift this leg up. I'm not actually like leaning backwards, I would say. I'm lifting this leg so when I extend, that way this leg doesn't come back to the ground. Because if I start and I extend this leg, then my foot gets closer to touching the ground. So I'm really just lifting that angle and then pushing up. And as I push up to extend this arm, it's gonna keep my leg from touching the ground as I increase that angle. So I'm not actually like leaning backwards. I guess that was kind of like wrong to say, but yes. Thank you for asking that so I can clarify. I'm still leaning forward a little bit, but as it basically allows me room in the back where my leg is to not touch the ground as I extend back up and onto my fingertips. because I am going to be angling like a seesaw a little bit backwards. So as soon as I lift off with my hand, my leg is going to give. But if I increase that angle first, then I'm not going to touch the ground sooner. So the goal is to get here, right, to where your fingertips are on the ground. Once your fingertips are here, and I'll just show this without doing the air baby, you want to slowly lift your fingers one at a time until you're on one finger. Because I say this because when you're doing air baby and you just lift your hand off like this, at first you're just going to lose balance, right? So, I mean, if you're good enough, you can lift it off, whatever. But I would say from here, slowly go one finger at a time. And then it should feel, instead of like throwing your hand up, you should slowly lift your hand off the ground. Because as soon as you throw your hand up, you're shifting your weight, and then your air baby is going to be gone. Same thing with one hand stall, same thing with a lot of other things. As soon as you throw that arm, you're really not going to be able to balance it. So once you get to this, as far as two-handed air baby goes, this should be the goal, straight and fingertips. And then that's only after you increase that angle of your leg. So once you're here again, lift up slowly until you're on one finger, then slowly lift off that finger. And it's okay if you want to put that finger back down, or if you just want to hold that finger. I can't emphasize this enough. A lot of people rush this process where they're on their fingertips and then they just want to like let go real quick, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let go, you know. But really, the longer you sit in this and you can hold this, the better your one-hand air babies are going to be in the long run. You're essentially learning how to shift your weight onto your other hand. So doing this, lifting off your fingers, is essentially doing that same thing without you actually like lifting. So there's no shame in just holding your air baby like this for as long as you can. So hold it as long as you can, no rush in lifting with your fingertips. And then you get to one eventually, no shame in holding it like this. Even if you have to push that finger on the ground, majority of your weight is going to be on your other hand. So yeah, so as far as one-hand air baby goes, that's mostly it. And then once you get to the point where you lift off that other hand, as you lift off the other arm, you're going to notice your chest starts to open out a little bit. It's not going to open out the same way your Nike or Pike does, but as you lift up your fingers, you're going to notice your arm is going to lift off a little bit, and your chest, my chest is going to face more towards you guys. So I start my air baby with my chest closed, both hands on the ground. I lift up that leg, and then I straighten that arm, go on my fingertips, and my chest is starting to open out. And each time I shift my weight more and more, my chest is opening out until I get to that one-hand air baby. So opening out your chest is a little bit, people will tell you, like, open out your chest, open out your chest. But that's kind of like a product as you go through the process of slowly lifting up those fingers. So again, when you do it, don't throw up that free hand. Otherwise, you're going to throw off your balance. And then once you get to the point where you can do a two-handed air baby and you're comfortable, or you can do a one-handed air baby and you're comfortable, once you reach a certain point of comfort, you can start bending your other leg. So you're here, you don't have to keep it straight. You can bend it. You can like bend it and like grab it, whatever you want to do. But that's once you're comfortable enough. Like when I do my my stream, I do my opposite arm air baby, but sometimes I'll bend my leg. I'm comfortable like this, but I may not be comfortable in one hand as I am with my good arm. But I would encourage you to play around with different things. The more familiar you get with like being in that position in different forms, like your leg bent, your leg straight, I think it helps overall. And I think same thing applies to handstands, right? If you get comfortable with your handstand in Nikes, in crunch legs, in bicycles, in straddle, it's going to help you with your handstands overall. So no matter which way you fall or catch yourself, you're going to be able to do something out of it or save it. Same thing with air baby and any other freeze. So yeah, main thing for air baby, keep your legs tight, keep that core tight, just like we always do. Do we have any other questions? I know we ran super late on this. It is already past 9. Which is more important, opening out your chest or straight leg leaning back? I wouldn't say straight leg leaning back again, because you're not actually leaning back, but lifting up that angle is probably a little bit more important, because as you go to one hand, you're gonna inherently open out your chest anyways. So opening out your chest is not really something that you consciously need to worry about, more so than straightening out that straight leg, or like lifting up that straight leg, sorry. So I focus more on lifting up this straight leg before I seesaw backwards than I do opening out my chest. Opening out my chest is more of like a part of the process, if that makes sense. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be at the point where like, I'm gonna open out my chest, because throwing out and opening out your chest is gonna throw off your balance as well, unless you're at the point where you can do that with your air babies. I would say just lift up, like as far as like how far you lift your leg up, I would say lift your leg up as far as you know, like you're gonna extend your arm and not be able to touch the ground again, if that makes sense. So you're gonna have to play around with like how much is good enough, but you're definitely not gonna pass that point where your leg is flush with your body. So you're definitely not gonna pass like this point, if that makes sense. The way I like to think about it, actually the way I was like, when I was learning, the way I did it was like, if you guys, like the audience, are looking at my foot, of my bent leg like here, and I start my air baby, you can see this foot behind. The way I like to think about it is like, I want to cover that foot with my leg. So I'm here, and a good gauge for me is cover that foot with my leg, and then I'll lean back, and I should be okay. So that's kind of like the way I like to like think about my angle when I was starting. I didn't really remember that until now, but feel free to follow me on Instagram, hit me up in my DMs if you have any questions, and also tag me in your post, your stories, or if you don't want anyone else to see it, you can send me your footage for advice or tips. But love to see the progress. It doesn't have to be freezes or stretches or power moves or footwork, it can be your rounds, anything. So yeah, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. Also on Twitch, if you haven't followed me already, please give me a follow. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. But if you already do so and you want to support me even more, take this link, share it with people you know that are stuck in quarantine and want to move or anything like that. I stream every day, 7 p.m., every weekday, 7 p.m. Central Time. So feel free to join me for as long as that quarantine continues. I hope you guys enjoyed the workshop. Definitely do more with these. I think the next time I'll do it will be next week, doing a stab and a chair. But we'll see. I think this workshop went pretty well. Not as many people as last week, but it's okay because I advertised that one a lot more. If you guys have any feedback for me, feel free to message me on Instagram. What did you like? What did you not like? Did you like the Google Doc? Did you not like the Google Doc? Is there anything that you feel like I didn't touch on that I should have? Anything like that. Or if you have any questions, also feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. But yeah, with that being said, every day, 7 p.m. Central Time, I'll be streaming as long as the quarantine goes on for. So feel free to join me in that. And then next week, we'll try and do another workshop on stabs and chairs. But until then, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this workshop. Really enjoy having you guys here all the time. I will see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time. Peace.